The Kingdom of Lochac Fencing Combat Handbook. Copyright. Text included verbatim from the SCA Inc. Marshal's Handbook is copyright the Society for Creative Anachronism, Inc. All other text is copyright the Society for Creative Anachronism, New Zealand, Inc. and the Society for Creative Anachronism, Australia Limited. It may be freely copied for SCA purposes provided it is copied in full and this notice remains intact. Narrated by Ulrich de Porto. 1. Introduction. 1.1. About these rules. 1. These are the rules for fencing combat in the Kingdom of Lochac. They incorporate the Society fencing combat rules and are relevant for Lochac as well as the rules of the lists. These rules comply with the minimum standards of the Society fencing rules and may be more restrictive. Where Lochac's rules are less restrictive than the Society rules, we have an approved variance from the Society Marshal. 2. All fencing combatants and marshals in Lochac are responsible for knowing these rules. 3. Fencers attending events outside of Lochac will need to follow the Society fencing combat rules and any rules specific to the kingdom where the event is held. 4. All fencing combat activities in Lochac must follow the policies and requirements of SCA, Australia and New Zealand, including, but not limited to, insurance and sign-in requirements, health and safety policies, the Code of Conduct. 5. Authorised fencers from other kingdoms are welcome to take part in events held in Lochac. Guest fencers must follow all of Lochac's fencing rules, including standards for protective gear and weapons set out in these rules. 1.2. Rules of the Lists. The rules of the lists are society-wide and apply to fencing combat. They are copied directly from Corpora, with spelling adjusted for Lochac. 1. Each fighter, recognizing the possibilities of physical injury to themselves in such combat, shall assume unto themselves all risk and liability for harm suffered by means of such combat. Other participants shall likewise recognize the risks involved in their presence on or near the field of combat, and shall assume unto themselves the liabilities thereof. 2. No person shall participate in martial activities requiring authorization outside of formal training sessions unless and until they have been properly authorized under Society and Kingdom procedures. 3. All combatants must be presented to and be acceptable to the Sovereign or their representative. 4. All combatants shall adhere to the appropriate armour and weapons standards of the Society and to any additional standards of the kingdom in which the event takes place. 5. The Sovereign or the Marshalate may bar any weapon or armour from use upon the field of combat. Should a warranted Marshal bar any weapon or armour, an appeal may be made via the established Marshalate chain of command up to and including to the Sovereign to allow the weapon or armour. 6. Combatants shall behave in a knightly and chivalrous manner, and shall fight according to the appropriate Society and Kingdom conventions of combat. 7. No one may be required to participate in martial activities. Any combatant may, without dishonour or penalty, reject any challenge without specifying a reason. A fight in a tournament lists is not to be considered a challenge, and therefore may not be declined or rejected without forfeiting the bout. 8. Fighting with real weapons, whether fast or slow, is strictly forbidden at any Society event. This rule does not consider approved weaponry that meets the Society and Kingdom standards for Society armoured combat or fencing used in the context of mutual sport to be real weaponry. 9. No projectile weapons shall be allowed, and no weapons shall be thrown within the lists of a tournament. The use of approved projectile weapons for melee, war, or combat archery shall conform to the appropriate Society and Kingdom conventions of combat. 1.3. Application of the rules. 1.3.1. General. 1. These rules are designed to promote safe fencing combat. No matter how clear or accurate, rules cannot replace common sense, good judgment, and concern for the participants. When in doubt, consider safety above all else. 2. The Crown's representative in all matters dealing with fencing combat is the Kingdom Earl Marshal, then the Kingdom Fencing Marshal, then, by delegation, members of the Kingdom Fencing Marshalate. 3. These rules may be subject to change to clarify requirements, reflect changes in Australian or New Zealand law, or to address other situations that may arise. A. The rules are hosted on the Lochac Marshal Rules Wiki. B. Formal announcements about these rules will be made through the Lochac Fencers email list, fencers@lochac.sca.org, and will also be posted on the Lochac Rapier Facebook page, www.facebook.com/groups/35851925409344/. C. All fencers and marshals must make sure they keep up with these announcements. 1.3.2 Mundane Laws. General. 1. All fencing combat must also follow the mundane laws of the relevant jurisdictions in Australia and New Zealand. 2. This includes laws relating to the possession or use of prohibited or controlled weapons. Victoria. 1. For anyone in the Australian state of Victoria, including transitioning through the state, you must meet the exemption requirements of the Victorian Control of Weapons Act 1990 to be allowed to carry or use a sword in Victoria. 2. Information about these requirements and how to meet them is on the SCA Australia website. 1.4 Youth Activities. 1. The minimum age for training and authorisation in fencing is 14. 2. Combatants aged between 10 and 14 years are covered by the Youth Fencing Combat Rules. 3. All fencing activities involving minors must also follow any youth activities policy set by SCA Limited and SCA NZ. 4. When combatants under the age of 18 take part in training and authorisation, the Kingdom Fencing Marshal, or their delegate, needs to ensure that the minor's parent or legal guardian has observed fencing in the SCA, is aware of the risk of injury inherent in this martial art, and has signed a statement explicitly acknowledging this by completing the relevant minor participation form. 5. Authorization cards issued to minors will have minor clearly printed across the face of the card. 6. Participants under 18 years of age cannot hold fencing marshal or authorizing fencing marshal authorizations.